Okay, the worksheet that we've been doing lately is called 1.7, and we only have assigned like 2 chunks of it. Now, of course, today is assigning the rest of it. So I could just say, go for it. Finish the worksheet, because they're all the same. They just get a little bit harder and a little bit harder, but they're all the same basic idea. But I want to run you through this and make sure you get this. Area equals length times width. Would you agree that that is something in terms of something? Would you please write down for me what is in terms of what? All right, it's area in terms of length and width. Now, a typical question for today would be, I want the area in terms of just the length. Area in terms of just the length. Well, then that would mean my formula's close, but I have to get rid of the width. Can you just like cross it off? No, of course not. But you can take the W out and replace it with something. Pull the W out and replace it with something that has L's in it maybe. So the point is, if you know you want area in terms of length, and I think maybe I should say ITO in terms of length, because it's not just length. It could be like 5L plus 7 or something, but it can't have any other variables, only L's. If you know that's your goal, then you just ask yourself, okay, how do I get a W? So you look back at the problem they gave you, and hopefully you've got a drawn picture that looks like this, length and 1/2 length, and you go, oh, well, my width is really 1/2 length. So I can put in a 1/2 length right there and then multiply those together. Length times 1/2 length would be 1/2 L squared. So A would be 1/2 L squared in this case. Is area in terms of length now? Yeah, it is. All right, I want you to try this one. Everybody draw me a circle. Remember, it's best to have a picture and a labeled picture. And then I want, you've always seen the area formula with a pi r squared, right? I want the area in terms of diameter. For any circle. Area in terms of diameter. So you start with a picture. You just label your picture. Next, you write a formula. You always start with the pure form of the formula. Then you figure out, what are you really looking for? All right, circle, labeled with a diameter. That's all you really need. Then over here, a pure form of the formula, area is pi r squared. And now always start with that pure form of the formula. Now I just have to figure out what my goal is. I go to the bottom and I say I want area ITO in terms of radius. No, I didn't want radius, sorry. I wanted area in terms of diameter. Sorry, this is what I asked you for. So why isn't this good enough right now? Because it's area in terms of what? Radius. So all I have to do is take out the radius and put in something that's equal to that. So what's something that's equal to that? The radius is 2 diameters? No. A radius would be equal to, yes? Yes, half of the diameter. So you can either do 1/2 d or d divided by 2, right there. Now, is area in terms of diameter? Yes, it is. Now it's just about the simplifying. Would you everybody please multiply that puppy out and see if you know? A lot of people make a little mistake in this part. Try to multiply this out. All I'm asking you to do is simplify this part right here. Because you have to do that on this test. You're not allowed to just leave it and not simplify it. If you don't simplify it, we mark it wrong. Mr. E in the back. Tell me how you started the simplifying process.
Try to square the 1/2.
Good. What's 1/2 squared?
1/4.
1/4. And the d squared is just d squared. And then I times that all by pi, and so I can put the pi at the end, or I could have put it in front of the d. It doesn't really matter. Usually we consider this like a number, so usually we put it in there. 1/4 pi d squared. And area equals, and now I got area in terms of the diameter, and it's simplified all the way. Yes, sir?
I didn't know if d over 2 would squared over 4.
Okay, good question. What if you did this whole problem like this? Area equals pi r squared, and then you replace the r with d over 2. Then it's d squared over 4, right? So area equals pi times d squared over 4. Now, if I wanted to make fractions play nice with other fractions, I'll make this into a fraction, I'll put it over 1. Can you tell me what you think the final answer is? Mr. G, you started this thing, end it. Does that and that look a lot alike? Except there's a 1/4 in front versus a divided by 4. Wouldn't that come out to be the same? And therefore, it's okay. Yes. Question.
Could you write it like pi from?
All right. Now you've left me a math problem. You haven't. You've just said pi times that. Now you actually have to multiply it out. So this isn't simplified all the way because it's still a multiply problem. This times that. And so I can simplify that by saying 1/4 pi d squared, and there's nothing left to like make it look like a math problem. I know it's picky, but you want to multiply it all the way out. All right, let's do another one like that. You've got a, let's see, a circumference like a tin can. Everybody make yourself like a tin can or a pop can or something like that. All right. Now, looking at my pop can that I have on my desk here, tell me, does it look like it's about twice as tall as it is wide, or does it look more to you like it's 3 times as tall as it is wide? Going with twice or 3 times? How about this? I'm going to measure it quick, and then we'll get the final word. I'm going to just see. It might be between 2 and 3 times. We'll find out. What? So what do you think? 2 or 3? Commit. Put it on your paper. I think it's 2 times as tall or 3 times as tall. And here's the answer. You know, when I have a choice now that I'm all grown up, there's only one diameter. So that I'm going to choose millimeters because it's so much easier than using inches and then trying to divide them. All right, so this is about 65 millimeters wide and about 120 tall. So it's closer to 2 times, wasn't it? All right, so let's go with that. Our can is about 2 times as tall as it is wide. I want the volume of this can in terms of its width. We can call that W for width, also known as the diameter, but I'm going to call it W. And remember, what I asked you for was the volume ITO in terms of width. And I also told you that the can is twice as tall as it is wide. First step, draw a picture and label it. If all you have is what I have, you haven't labeled it all the way. We know more about the can than that. Second step, write an equation that's the pure form of an equation. You don't try to jump right to the answer. You write the pure form of the equation. And which equation do you think we should write? The volume equation. And in case you forgot the volume of a cylinder, it's pi r squared times what? The height. That's the pure form of the volume formula. Now, what's wrong with this as it is? Because that's volume in terms of radius and height. And I want it in terms of this thing I'm calling W. So I'm going to go over to my picture and finish labeling it, and then I'm going to give you a minute and let you struggle through this and try to figure out that is 2W if the other one is W. And so now you've got all the info you need to tell me V in terms of W. I'll pause for a second while you try that. Okay, here's what you should have been thinking. All right, I got to get rid of radius so that I can get this in terms of just W's. What could I put in instead of radius? Well, look at your problem here. The radius is like this. What would W be like? Okay, so would you agree that if I wanted to get radius, I could put in that it's how much of a W? Half of a W. The radius would be half of that W. So V equals pi, and then I'm going to, instead of radius, put in half of a W. And now the height, look at my picture. Here's the height. What is it? 2 W's. And now, even if you got it wrong to that point, would you please try squaring this thing, multiplying it all out, give me the final answer, because that's half the effort. Actually, it's not half. It's more like your last 1/3 of the problem is to simplify it, because it is a little harder to get to that point. But there's some difficulty here. Mostly people are doing it in the wrong order. If you get it wrong, it's mostly because they forget to square something, or they forget to square before they multiply, or along that sun thing. One of the things I asked the principal about last year is whether he'd let me take kids out of here and take them to someplace warm in January. And he has not officially turned me down yet. I would like to do some solar therapy going down in January to St. John. It's in the Caribbean. And my dream is that I can take a field trip down there because there are things like this. People go to France for a week, and the German students go to Germany for a week and learn German. I would like to take people to St. John. There's some cool history there, so I'd like to take a history teacher with me. I've already talked to the history teacher that I want to take. And science would be cool too. So I'd be willing, if the history teacher wimps out, to take the science teacher because that island had some really interesting history. I don't want to blow it in case any of you come on the trip, but I would take a trip with 12 kids, me and another teacher, and it would be an amazing getaway for 1 week to the Caribbean. It would cost about $3,000. So if you could get mom and dad to say yes, how many of you would go? Yeah, it would be awesome, wouldn't it, in January to be. The last time I was there, they called a snow day, and I got it on my email on my phone. I'm like, I was sitting out in the deck outside, sun shining, beautiful weather. It's like, yeah, they got a snow day back home. It was beautiful. All right, here we go. Let's finish this. You should have said V equals. Am I going to start by multiplying by the pi? No. I'm going to start in there. And that's going to be 1/4 W squared. And then I'm going to slap on the pi and the 2W. I did my squaring first. And the most common mistake is people forget to square the 1/2. They say it's 1/2 W squared. It's not. It's 1/4 W squared. Now I can multiply by a pi and by a 2W. That order does not matter. But I'm going to put the 2W with the 1/4 W squared. And I'm going to do it in a strategic way. 1/4 times the 2 times the W squared times the W. Do you get all I did is rearrange these things? I put the 1/4 first, then I put the 2, then I put the W squared, then I put the W. And that helps you clump it together and say that's really 2/4, which is 1/2, W cubed, and a pi. 1/2 W cubed and a pi. I should really squeeze it in there. 1/2 pi w cubed. If you had w cubed pi, that'd be fine. Any questions about that? Did any of you have that perfect? All right. Nice job, 5 of you. All right. Let's do another one like that. This time, let's use a rectangular box. If you aren't good at these, draw a square. Draw another square that's offset from the first square. And then connect the dots. Connect the corners. Now, I'm not perfect at it either, but at least that's better than some people can freehand. All right, so now I've got this box. And I'm going to say that my box has squares on both ends, because I told you to make them squares. And that its length is 5 more inches. The length is 5 more inches than the height. And the height is the same as the length, or no, the width. Like these are both the same. That's the same as that. Okay, so my question is, what's the volume of my box in terms of the height? You know where I'd put that right away? Volume. I-T-O-H. So now you know kind of what you should be looking for. Do I have a labeled picture? No, I better label my picture. After I got my picture labeled, I should make a formula. After I get the pure form of the formula, I should take stuff from my picture, put it into the formula until I've got V in terms of H. I'll pause for a second while you try that one. So here we go. Length is 4 more than the height. So I would be thinking if this is the height, then this is also the height. I know that freaks people out sometimes, but if they're the same thing, you should call them the same variable. And then this length here, length of the thing, and that's the same as this, which is the same as this, which is the same as that, is longer than those other ones. It's 5 more than that, so it's H plus 5. How many of you had labeled your shape correctly? All right, good. And that's one of the harder things, because now that we've got that, it's really pretty easy stuff. I hope you know the volume formula for a box. It's length times width times height. And now I just have to stick it all in terms of H. Do you get that these are the two things that I don't want in there? And then I'll have it in terms of H. Volume is, and I need something for L and something for W, and I already have an H. I don't have to change that because, you know, it's an H. That's what I want in my answer. So the width is, I guess, this is hard to know which one you consider the length and which one you consider the width, but I was considering that the length, I was considering this the width, and I was considering this the height. So the width is really H. And the length is really H plus 5. And then you just have to multiply them all together. Volume equals, let's see, H plus 5 times H would be H squared plus 5H, and then it has to be times by an H. So now I'm going to multiply it out again. Volume equals H squared times another H is H to the third plus 5H squared. There we go. It's volume in terms of only H's in there. Any of you get that one right? Excellent. All right, I know these are not easy, and some of you will fail this test. But I'm hoping that we have very few people that have that happen to them, because you need to try hard between now and Thursday, which is when the test is. Okay, so today is the last day of like new material. Then tomorrow and the next day are just review, even though we've really kind of been reviewing the entire time. And I've been trying to make this all one big review of since the beginning. Okay, so today your homework, finish that worksheet. You got to be done with all the problems by tomorrow. And then tomorrow I have a review for the test that I'm going to hand out and work on that for a couple days, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday take the test. All right? You don't have to be perfect yet, but she should be starting to get close. If you've been trying it hard this whole time, you're probably close to understanding this. Okay, that's all I got for you for today.